Hey everyone, how's it going? Cloud here, and welcome to my guide on the Fur and Seek wishlist mini quest. Now, if you're watching this video, it does mean that you should have completed the Fur and Seek quest and you want to complete the wish list. However, if you haven't completed the Fur and Seek quest, you need to do that first. So in the video description below, I have a link to the Fur and Seek quest if you need a guide for that. So make sure you completed it before you come back to this. However, the main majority of you should already have completed that, and that's why you're here. So before we go through the actual wish list itself, we're going to go over the requirements and items needed to complete all of the wish list. Now be prepared, it's quite a long list, and I will be writing the list in the video description below just to make it easy for you guys to check you have everything. So for requirements, as I said a moment ago, you need to have completed the Fur and Seek quest, and you need to have also completed or started Recipe for Disaster freeing King Aroigi subquest. I do recommend you have finished it though, just to make it easier, and you also need to have started the pyre ship section of the Barbarian Firemaking, which allows you to access the waterfall dungeon or whirlpool dungeon, whatever you want to call it, which has all mithril dragons and that, as you're going to need to actually kill one of those later on as part of this wish list. You're also going to need level 78 Slayer. However, this can be boosted with various different options. Again, I'll write those down in the description for you as well. And naturally, you're going to need quite a high combat level in order to defeat all of the enemies that I'll be talking you through in a moment. So for items, you will need an elemental shield or mind shield or body or cosmic or chaos, any one of those, and also an anti-dragon shield or a dragonfire shield. You will need a light source, a leaf-bladed spear or leaf-bladed sword, or a slayer dart spell, or broad arrows or broad-tipped bolts. You will need a teasing stick, a knife, and some logs for hunting the sabre-toothed kyatt a bit later on. You're going to need several thousand coins, and you're also going to need 20 pots of vinegar and 20 normal logs. Those of you who recently did the Rag and Bone Man quest, you'll remember about the pots of vinegar which you need to polish all the bones. Also, these are the various enemies you need to defeat. The highest level one out of all of them though is the Mithril Dragon, so you need to have a combat level in order to defeat one of those, and anything lower level than that, so obviously a fairly high combat level is recommended. So that's it for the requirements and items. Now on to the start of the mini quest. So in order to start the mini quest or wish list, literally as soon as you have finished the Fur and Seek quest, the odd old man will say that he has a wish list of items that he wants to be given to him again, and they'll be accessible on his hut. Now what I'm going to do, because there's basically various enemies that you can kill to get the various bones that you need, so I'll give you the choices during this actual guide. However, I will be showing you the choices that I actually went for and how to go about doing that in the quickest way possible. So obviously do take note that if you're not going to go after the same enemies that I did, it may take you a little bit longer. Anyways, enough about that, now onto the actual wish list. So the first area we're going to head to first in order to kill the various enemies and get their bones is the Chorims Dungeon. So the quickest way to get there is to go to the Chorims Lodestone via the Lodestone network, and then when you arrive you'll need to pay the guy outside to have access to the Chorims Dungeon, and you then want to enter. So the first enemy we're going to go kill is a moss giant, and the particular bone we want from the moss giant is a shoulder bone. So you'll find the moss giants as you start heading in through the dungeon and chop past the first few routes that are blocking your path. You'll also come across an agility shortcut which will lead you to where more moss giants are, so I recommend going across so you have access to all of them and literally keep killing them until they drop the shoulder bone. Now unlike the actual quests where the items are near enough sort of 100% drop, these aren't the case. You may need to kill several enemies in order to get the specific bone, and that is for every single one of the enemies on the wish list, so do take note on that. Anyways, keep killing the moss giants until you have the shoulder bone. So the next bone we want is the red dragon bone. So you'll find the red dragons as you start heading further into the dungeon, and hopefully those of you who have brought your anti-dragon shield or dragonfire shield, as I said at the beginning part of this quest. So head over to where the red dragons are, and then again like the moss giants, just keep killing all the red dragons until you get the red dragon bone tail. Once you have that one, either head through the little agility shortcut here or go the long way around, because the next dragons we're going to go after are the bronze dragons, and again we need to keep killing the bronze dragons until they drop the bronze dragon tailbone. So similar to last time, keep killing them until they've got it. And then once you have the bronze dragon tailbone, you then want to head into the next room sort of adjacent to the bronze dragons, where the iron and steel dragons are. And again, surprise surprise, you need to keep killing the iron and steel dragons until you get an iron dragon tailbone and a steel dragon tailbone. The good thing about the metal dragons is they're all basically the same approach. If you're fighting them with magic, all you got to do is protect against their Dragonfire, so it should hopefully enable you to kill quite a few without using many resources. So once you've got those dragon bones, that is all the enemies in the Brimhaven dungeon which bones we require. So now I recommend you go to the nearest bank, either in Burthorpe or Edgefield, and deposit your bones in the bank for the time being. But just to recap before you leave this area, that you have the moss giant shoulder bone, the red dragon bone, and the bronze, iron and steel dragon bones, and I'll speak to you in a moment. So the next bone we're going to get out of the way is the giant snake spine. So you can either kill young sea snakes, which you'll find on the Miscellanea and Acetria dungeon, but this requires more quests to have been completed, or you can go kill the big snakes that can be found on Crash Island, which you encountered during the Monkey Madness quest. So that is the main one I'd recommend you go for. Now to get to Crash Island, what you want to do is first off head to the Tree Gnome Stronghold. So if you did teleport to Edgefield, you can use the Spirit Tree in the Grand Exchange to head to the Tree Gnome Stronghold. Once you're there, if you go to the first floor, I believe, of the Tree Gnome Stronghold and speak to the gnome Adaero near the bar, he'll then take you to the hangar, and then you should be able to choose the other gnome to take you to Crash Island. Now on Crash Island you'll see a pit which has a little dungeon minimap icon, and when you climb down the pit there are 5 big snakes down there. These are also what you would have killed to have done the King Aroigi sub-quest for Recipe for Disaster. So what you want to do is keep killing all of the big snakes until they drop the giant snake spine, and then get yourself back out of that dungeon before the snakes eat you alive. Okay, so once you have this snake spine, we're going to head to Apatoll itself now. Now what we need to do is head to where the temple is on Apatoll, and what we need to do is kill the monkey guards until they drop the foot bone. Now the other monsters that you can kill for the foot bone are cave horrors or jungle horrors, but these require you to have completed the Cabin Fever quest in order to access Mosler Harmless. So again, that's another requirement for you guys, so I do recommend just going for the Apatoll ones. Now if you have a monkey greegree, you can use that to obviously get you to the Apatoll temple. If not, you can just head to the Apatoll island and get caught like in the Monkey Madness quest and get yourself out of the cage, and then head to where the temple of Marimbo is, and all the monkey guards are in the area, as well as a prayer altar, so that can hopefully help you against fighting them. And obviously when you are at the monkey guards, just keep killing them, and after a various amount of time you should then get the foot bone as a drop, and then you want to collect that and get out of there. Okay, so the next area we're going to head to for our wish list is the Fremenic province area, so teleport to there via the lodestone. Then when you arrive, what you want to do, there's another item we require to complete the wish list, which is the golden fleece, which you can buy from Lally the troll, who is near the golden apple tree southeast of Relica and just near the lodestone. So speak to Lally until you get the option to buy the golden fleece and then purchase one of them. And also we're now going to head through the Fremenic Slayer dungeon in order to get the next bones that we need as well. So you'll find that just near where the lodestone is again. So you're going to head all the way through the dungeon until you get to where the Turoths are, and you need to keep killing the adult Turoths for the Fibula Bone. Now these are the only monsters that drop the Fibula Bone, so there's no alternative one. The Turoth must be either the level 68, 69 or 71, the larger ones. And again, these are what you need your special either leaf bladed weapons for, or Slayer Dart spell, or the broad tipped bolt. So using whatever method you brought with you, keep killing all the adult Turoths until you get the Fibula Bone. The other monster in here that we need to kill is the Aquanites, so they'll be found at the very end of the dungeon, and the Aquanites you need to get the pelvis bone from. Now again, these are the only monsters that drop the pelvis bone, so you must do that. Now you need obviously a requirement Slayer level to be able to kill these, so make sure you take a Slayer boost with you if you need to in order to be able to fight against the Aquanites. And obviously, once again, when you are in the area, just keep killing all your Aquanites until they drop the pelvis bone, and then you want to collect that and then get back out of there again. Okay, so the next area we need to head to is Canifis, and the first actual location in Canifis is the Slayer Tower, and we need to go after the Crawling Hand for the next bone. So teleport to Canifis Lodestone via the Lodestone network, and then keep heading northwest until you reach the Slayer Tower. So the actual bone we require is the hand bone, so as I said, the crawling hands will drop them. The other alternative monsters for you are zombie hands or skeletal hands, which can be found inside the Mire Ditch dungeon, but again, I think you need to complete the Legacy of Seergaze quest in order to do those, so I wouldn't recommend that. And again, as usual, you just want to keep killing all the crawling hands until they drop that hand bone and collect that in your inventory. Okay, so before we go to the next area, I would recommend going to the bank and depositing all your bones in there again. You're also going to want to obviously stock up with weapons, armor and food, as the next area we're going to head to is the Waterfall dungeon in the Barbarian Assault area, where we're going to be fighting against the Mithril dragons, so make sure you've got whatever you need in order to defeat them. So when you're ready, we need to head to the Whirlpool, which will lead us to the Ancient Cavern. So the quickest way to get there is to use a Games Necklace to teleport to the Barbarian Outpost, and then we're going to head south from there to where the Whirlpool is. Now you need to have completed the pyre ship making section of the Barbarian Firemaking in order to be able to access this. So if you haven't done that and it doesn't let you in the Whirlpool, you'll need to go speak to a man called Otto, who can be found around the area in a hut just near the lake that actually has the Whirlpool, and you should be able to go through some various options in order to unlock that particular part. Then you should be able to access the Ancient Cavern after that. So once you've gone into the Whirlpool, you'll arrive in the Ancient Cavern, and I don't quite know what my character was doing here, proper glitched out. It looks like I've turned into a flipping ostrich or something. But anyway, the enemies we need to kill in here predominantly are the Mithril dragons. However, the other enemy I recommend you kill, and it's just to save a little bit of time, are the brutal green dragons, as you will need a green dragon tailbone. So you've got a choice of either killing the brutal green dragons or killing the normal green dragons, but they're found throughout the wilderness, so obviously you've got the risk there of getting PK'd. The brutal green dragons are just basically a stronger version of them, so as long as you're using Dragonfire protection and you're a fairly decent level, you should be able to keep killing the brutal green dragons until you get the green dragon tailbone. So once you've done that, you now want to go fight the Mithril dragons. So you'll find the Mithril dragons on a higher level. There's a staircase near the brutal green dragons that takes you up to them. Now be wary of the Mithril dragons, they are quite strong, but what I would recommend, if you haven't already prepared to do so, is to use a magic type against them. Predominantly earth spells are the most effective against the Mithril dragons, but obviously it all depends on what your magic level is. If it's not that high, then obviously sticking to melee or range might be a better option for you. But again, as long as you're using Dragonfire protection, you're obviously set up to succeed with your equipment and that, and using various prayers, you should be able to dispatch them fairly easily. I say that, it all depends down on your combat level, but again, the Mithril dragons may require you to kill them more than once to get the Mithril dragon tailbone, but hopefully you're lucky and get one on the first kill. So once you have the Mithril dragon tailbone and the green tail dragon bone, if you chose to kill the brutal greens, you want to get out of the cavern, go to the bank again just so you can deposit your bones and just to restock up on supplies, as that probably would have lowered your supplies having to fight the Mithril dragons. So the next area we're going to head to is Tavali, and specifically the Tavali Dungeon, and the first enemy we want to go kill are the blue dragons in order to get the blue dragon tailbone. So you want to climb down the entrance to the Tavali Dungeon, if you have level 70 agility you can crawl through the obstacle pipe, if not you'll have to make your way around to get to the other side. But once you're fighting against the blue dragons, usual tactic, just keep killing them until they drop the blue dragon tailbone. Once you have the blue dragon tailbone, we're now going to head all the way through the Tavali dungeon right to the end where the black dragons are, as we need to also collect a black dragon tailbone. And again, just use the same method to fight the black dragons as you've done with all the other dragons until they drop the black dragon tailbone. So the next area we're going to head to is Port Sarim via the Port Sarim lodestone, and then we're going to head to the Asgard Ice Dungeon, which can be found to the south, as there's a few enemies in here that we need to kill for bones as well. So once you enter the Asgard dungeon, you want to follow it all the way through to the icy area, and then there should be a cave that will take you to where the Skeletal Wyverns are, and those are the next enemies we need to defeat. So we need to obtain the Skeletal Wyvern tailbone, and again there's no other enemies to be able to fight in order to obtain these bones. Now these are a bit different to normal like other dragon type monsters. You need to be using some form of shield from the Elemental Workshop quest, so you've either got Elemental Shield, Mind Shield, Cosmic Shield, etc, etc. So you want to keep fighting against these Skeletal Wyverns. These are going to be a little bit more tricky for you, so just be careful with them. They're mostly weak against fire spells, so using magic if it's your sort of higher skill is definitely recommended. And again, just keep killing the Skeletal Wyverns until they drop the Skeletal Wyvern tailbone. As soon as you've got that, get yourself out of that little cavern area so you stop being attacked by them. So once you've done that, the next area we're going to head to is near the Fremenic province once again, but what we're going to be doing this time is heading to the Snowy Hunter area to the north. And what we need to do here is, instead of actually killing some enemies, we're going to be using Hunter, as we need to collect some sabre-toothed, sabre-like teeth even, and this requires level 55 Hunter. Now the alternative for this is you can hunt sabre-toothed kebbits, which require level 51 hunter, or if none of the hunter options are available to you, you can attack these monsters called a Wallasalki. Now I believe these can be found on Waterbirth Island Dungeon, and they're basically like walruses, but they are quite powerful, and you do need to navigate your way through the dungeon in order to get to them, so that will take you a little while. It's basically en route to the Dagonoth Kings. So if you can go about using the hunter method, I would recommend that, although it does take a little bit of time. It will just save you having to go all the way to Waterbirth Island and finding your way through. So when you're at the Snowy Hunter area, what you want to do is keep heading keep setting up deadfall traps using the logs and knife around the various is using logs which you can obtain from trees around the various area, and using a knife to obviously make the traps. And then with your teasing stick, you want to keep aggravating the kyatts to chase you and keep jumping over the deadfall traps until eventually one gets caught. Now you'll collect the normal loot from the saber-toothed kyatts, but you have got the chance of getting the saber-like teeth from them. However, don't expect to get it on your first try, so just keep repeating this method until you do get the saber-like teeth from the deadfall trap. So once you have this saber-like teeth, you're now going to want to teleport to the Al-Kharid lodestone via the lodestone network, and then we're going to head to the actual desert of Al-Kharid, past Shantae Pass, as there's a couple of enemies we want to kill here in order to get the next lot of bones. So the enemies you want to fight are the camels in order to get the neck bone as a possible drop. Now they can be found throughout the Kharidian desert, just south of Shantae Pass. So again, usual method, just keep killing all the camels until you get the neck bone as one of the drops. So once you've done that, now this requires if you have actual access to the fairy rings in order to get the next bones, otherwise you're going to have to fight some different monsters instead. So the next bones we want are long sharp claws. Now Gorax drop these, but this requires you to have access to the fairy ring network, which requires you to have started Fairy Tale Part 2. Now if you do have that, that's pretty good, as near Shanty Pass is a fairy ring, and you can use the fairy ring nearby to go to Zenaris and then punch in the code to go to the Gorak plane. Now if you can't fight Gorax, you've got two other options for you. So you can either hunt wild kebbits, which require you 23 hunter, and wild kebbits can be found near Eagle's Peak in the Piscatorius hunter area, or the other option for you, although this is going to take a little bit of time and I would require you to do this with friends if you can, is to fight the giant mole who can be found underneath Falador. Now even though it's not too difficult, it's quite time consuming to fight it, and obviously there's not 100% you're going to get the long sharp claws as a drop. So hopefully the main majority of you can actually go for the Gorax, if not the wild kebbits. But for myself, because I have access to Gorax, I'm going to use the fairy ring to go to code DIR, and this will take me to the Gorak plane. And again, I'm going to keep killing the Gorax until I have the long sharp claws as a drop. Okay, so the next bone we want is the humerus bone. Now there's a couple of options here available for you. So you can either fight the tortoises. Now tortoises can be found in different areas. You can find them on the battlefield of Khazard near Ardone. You can fight them near the Tree Gnome stronghold, or you've got the option to fight warped tortoises. Now these require you to have completed the Path of Glaufrey quest, I believe, and to have access to the Poison Waste Slayer dungeon. So you've got two options there. For myself though, I'm going to go fight the normal tortoises, so I'm going to go back to the Tree Gnome stronghold. So again, usual method to get there by using spirit trees to teleport to the Tree Gnome stronghold, and you'll find the tortoises in the northwest section. Alternatively, like I said, you can go to the battlefield of Khazard, which is south of East Ardone, and keep fighting the tortoises around there until one of them drops the humerus bone, and then collect that in your inventory. Okay, so I recommend going to the bank again once again to deposit any bones you have, and also to prepare for the next option. Okay, so there's two monsters you can kill in order to get this next bone. However, both aren't ideal as it's not 100% drop rate. Now the bone you want is a femur bone. So you've got two options. You can either fight General Graardor, who is the boss in the Bandos stronghold in the God Wars dungeon, and obviously that is all going to depend on your level in order to be able to fight him. The other alternative is to fight the enemy known as Bork. Now Bork can be fought daily after you've completed the Hunt for Surok mini quest, which requires the What Lies Below quest to have been completed. And like I said, Bork can be fought daily. Now the problem with this is you've only got the chance to fight him the once. If he doesn't drop it, you're going to have to wait till the next day in order to try again. So like I said, that option's completely up to you, but I'm obviously going to go give an attempt to fight Bork in the Chaos Tunnels and see if he gives me the drop. So in order to reach Bork, I recommend going through to Edgeville, and obviously you can teleport there via the lodestone network, and then directly north of the Edgeville lodestone there's a little rift which will allow you to enter the Chaos Tunnel. So that is the run I recommend going through, as it's the easiest way to reach Bork. So once you climb down, you'll be in an area with some gargoyles. You want to head through to this portal which will lead you to where all these mummies are, and keep heading all the way through to the next portal where the Zamorakian monks are. Go past them and there's another portal there which will take you to Dust Devils. You want to go all the way around to this part here and use this portal to go to where the Black Demons are. Head across the Black Demons and that will take you to an area where there are some Earth Warriors and Bronze Dragons. Then go through this portal to the Dagonoths, and then there's this portal here. Now as soon as you go through that, that is what will take you to Bork, and then you'll need to fight him using the usual tactics. So hopefully you're all prepared with food and weapons and armour. Bork's not that difficult to defeat, if I'm perfectly honest, especially if you're using prayer and that. It's just depending on whether he'll be nice enough to give you the femur bone as the drop. So as you can see, for me, I was fortunate enough to get the femur bone from him. Obviously, if you guys aren't as lucky as to get a femur bone from him, you're either going to have to wait till the next day in order to give Bork another try, or you have got the option of going after General Graardor, but that is completely up to you. So that should now be all of the bones you need off the wish list, and we can actually start preparing them. We will quickly go through the bones in a moment, but I'll show you the little reference you can go by. So first thing we really need to do is start getting our pots of vinegar ready. So what we're going to do is head to Draenor Village via the lodestone. And then if you head to Draenor Market, you have the guy called Fortunato who will sell wine, and he'll also sell vinegar to you. Now he'll sell jugs of vinegar, so what you need to do is use a jug of vinegar on an empty pot to create a pot of vinegar, and obviously you're going to need that for all the various bones. So in total you're going to want 20 pots of vinegar. So like I said, just keep buying jugs of vinegar from him and keep using them on your pots until you have all the pots of vinegar, and then we can prepare the bones in the pots of vinegar ready, just to save a bit of inventory space later. Okay, so once you have all your pots of vinegar, you might as well start putting the bones in the pots of vinegar, otherwise you'll have to just basically carry like 2 items instead of 1 for each bone, so it just saves you some inventory space later on. So yeah, put all your bones in the vinegar and they'll be prepared ready, and then what we'll do, we'll show you how to go through the list to check you have all of the bones. So it should be 20 bones in total. Now if you open your quest journal and go to the Forensic quest, it will be under your like completed quests. Click that and it should talk to you about the wish list, and it will tell you what bones you have, and you can check you have them all. So just for you guys to double check, you should have all these bones in vinegar ready. So foot bone, giant snake spine, shoulder bone, long sharp claws, fibula bone, hand bone, a dragon tail for each of these dragons, bronze, iron, steel, and mithril, green, blue, red and black. You'll also have skeletal wyvern tailbone, neck bone, femur bone, pelvis bone, humerus bone and sabre-like teeth, and also the golden fleece. So the next part, which is a little bit time consuming, and that's why I recommend to try and do this all in one trip, is you need to bring all of your bones in vinegar and the golden fleece with you to the odd old man's house, and what you need to do is polish all the bones by cooking the bones in the vinegar on his special hob. Now these also require logs, so now you can get logs from the trees around the various area around him, so you can just keep sort of nipping back and forth. If you have a summon with you that can use a beast of burden like a spirit terror bird, you could always bring some logs using them just to save you a little bit of time. So either way, we're going to head to the old man's house near the limestone mining area. You need to put your bone in the pot of vinegar on the little like hob to cook it, and when it's prepared you'll then click to remove, and you'll end up with a polished bone and an empty pot. Obviously you have no need for empty pots, so just drop that straight on the floor. You'll then need to add another log and then another bone in vinegar, and keep repeating this process until you have polished all 20 bones. Like I said though, if you didn't bring logs with you, there are loads available from the trees around the path that leads up to like Canifis and all that, so you can just keep going back and forth obtaining some logs just to save travelling to and from the bank. Okay, so once you have eventually polished all of the bones, you have 20 polished bones and the golden fleece, you want to speak to the odd old man and hand them over to him, and he'll get quite excited and tell you that he wants to show you his creation from what you've done. Now what he's actually done is created a monster known as the Skeletal Horror, which we'll discuss in a moment, and what you need to do in order to finish this mini quest is to kill the Skeletal Horror. Now if you're feeling brave enough like I was, you could potentially fight it without having to go back to the bank and get in any like food and that, but again that's up to you. If you obviously die, you're going to have to come back, so literally it depends on what your combat level is. I'll talk about the actual Skeletal Horror and how to kill it in a moment, but yeah, you either make that decision now if you need to go get resources or not, or start with him straight away. So when you're ready, you want to climb over the fence to head up to the northeast section, and that's where the Skeletal Horror will be waiting for you, a level 91 monster. Now the Skeletal Horror fights with melee, so you can use the Protect from Melee prayer to help battle against him if you wish. Now as the monster starts to lose health, he'll start losing bones as you battle it. Now what you need to do is quickly collect these bones and bury them to weaken the monster. If you don't collect them, the fallen bones will crawl back to the monster and restore its life. So he'll start with losing one of his arms, I believe, then he'll lose his other arm, then his tail, and then it will literally just be a case of he can only fight with his head, and then when you've killed him again, or got his health points down to 0, that will be the end of him. So like I said, the only real tactic there is to make sure you use and protect from melee and just keep dishing out as much damage to him as you can, and just being quick enough to collect those bones and bury them, as the quicker you do that, the faster you can then carry on battling him. So as you can see, I was quite lucky and managed to kill him just before the monster finished me off. Also, if you're very lucky, you'll potentially get an elite clue scroll from the Skeletal Horror, as he does drop them as a rare drop, so you might be lucky enough to get that. But yeah, once you have killed the Skeletal Horror, you'll be rewarded with some XP, I think, straight away, or after you've spoken to the odd old man. But what you want to do is climb back over the fence and speak to the odd old man to finish this mini quest. So he'll give you the choice of enchanting either a bone sack or a ram skull helmet, depending on what you picked in the original Rag and Bone Man wishlist. And after you finish speaking to him, it will come up with, congratulations, you've completed the Fair and Seek wish list. So the rewards: the Skeletal Horror can now be fought once a week, which will give you Slayer and Prayer experience. You would have got the enchanted version of the Bone Sack or Ramskull Helmet, which will allow you to teleport back to this area once a week, so basically enables you to fight him. You would have also got 10,000 Slayer experience and 7,000 Prayer experience, 2 treasure hunter keys and 2 hearts of ice. So, whew, there we go, all finished. So obviously quite a long mini quest. I do expect this to take you a couple of hours, especially with the fact that the monsters don't drop the bones you require 100% of the time, so you may have to kill more of them than I had to in order to get all the required bones. For the actual last part of the Skeletal Horror, he's not that difficult, obviously depending on your combat level, and obviously the good thing about it is, like I said, you can then fight him once a week, and also using the relevant reward he gave you to teleport back, so you can use the Bone Sack or the Ramskull Helmet to teleport to where the odd old man is and then fight him again. As to regards for reward after fighting the Skeletal Horror weekly, the experience you'll get from him will depend on your level. So for example, if you're level 80 Slayer, you'll get 10,125 experience for killing him each week. If you're level 98 Slayer, you'll get 12,375, so you can see it starts scaling up. And the same again with Prayer. So if you're level 30 Prayer, you'll get 3,100. If you're 40 Prayer, you'll get 4,100, etc, etc. So it's a pretty handy bit of XP, and like I said, you have also got the chance of getting the Clue Scroll Elite from him. The rarity of it is apparently always, but I'm pretty convinced I haven't got one from him every single time I've fought him weekly. You can also get Crystal Triskelion fragments from him as well, so yeah, you got a few different things that you can get from him. But yeah, overall, you hopefully shouldn't have run into any problems following my guide. However, if you do get stuck at all, or there's any particular bones you're having real trouble in obtaining, then please leave a comment in the comment section below and I'll help you out as best I can. If not, thank you for watching. Please make sure you like, favourite, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to share with your friends. Thanks everyone, bye bye.